The Oxford, Cambridge Heavy Boat Conspiracy, 1820s. Fog on the River Thames, 1820s. The dawn of what would become the greatest academic rivalry in the sporting world. Oxford versus Cambridge. Two universities with centuries of pomp, powdered wigs, and too much family money, deciding to test their honor not with philosophy or poetry, but with oars and sweat. It was supposed to be noble, a celebration of youthful vigor and gentlemanly competition. Instead, it became something else entirely. The day Oxford rowed a boat so heavy it might as well have been a floating coffin. And to this day, whispers say it wasn't an accident. It was a conspiracy. The morning began like any other race day. The fog rolled low over the Thames. Bells tolled faintly from nearby churches, and crowds gathered on the muddy banks, eager for spectacle. The Cambridge crew arrived first, tall and smug, their uniforms pressed, their sleek racing shell gleaming like a polished dagger. Then came Oxford, swaggering down to the boathouse, until their swagger died. Because waiting for them was not their boat. Not the sleek dragonfly of a craft they'd trained in for months. No, what lay in the boathouse was a beast. A vessel twice as heavy, twice as wide. A boat that looked more suited for hauling coal up the canal than slicing through water. They tried to lift it, and their faces turned crimson. Shoulders strained, knees buckled. One oarsman swore his spine compressed an inch that very morning. The crowd chuckled. Cambridge rowers smirked, already gliding into the water with blades sharp as razors. And Oxford? They had no choice. With no time to fix the mix-up, they hauled the barge of doom down the slipway. The race was on, but it was over before it began. From the very first stroke, it was clear. Cambridge surged ahead like swans on a current. Oxford, meanwhile, rowed as if dragging a cathedral. Their oars slapped water in frustration, splinters flying. The heavy boat cut no wake, it wallowed. Each pull was agony, and by the halfway mark, they were red-faced, gasping, barely moving forward. The crowd laughed. Newspapers the next day would call their craft a bathtub in disguise and a vessel fit for carrying hogs to market. The humiliation was complete. But here's the thing. Boats don't just magically swap themselves overnight. Someone planned this. And that's where the conspiracies bloom like algae on the Thames. The most popular theory? Cambridge sabotage. According to one dockhand's grandson, a shadowy figure slipped into the boathouse the night before, greased a few palms, and wheeled away Oxford's featherlight racing shell. In its place, he left a look-alike built from railway timber, every plank nailed thick with iron. To the sleepy eyes of Oxford's coach, it looked the same at dawn, until the rowers tried to lift it. Too late. Trap sprung. But others whisper it wasn't Cambridge at all. It was an inside job. One of Oxford's own, bribed by gamblers from London taverns. You see, betting on these races wasn't a hobby, it was an economy. Records from a Clerkenwell pub, uncovered years later, show suspiciously large sums placed on Cambridge to win by a wide margin. That's an odd bet unless you know the fix is in. And sure enough, Cambridge didn't just win. They won so easily it looked scripted. There are even tales of political meddling. In the 1820s, Britain's government was racked with intrigue. Certain ministers favored Cambridge, believing its graduates more loyal to the crown. Oxford, meanwhile, harbored radicals, reformers, men who scribbled dangerous pamphlets after too much gin. So perhaps, some argue, powerful hands allowed the switch to happen. Perhaps the race was less about oars and more about ensuring future lords and ministers came stamped with the right crest. Then there's the story of the cursed oars. Supposedly, Oxford discovered mid-race that their blades had been tampered with, edges sanded just enough to splinter under strain. Rowers cursed as their oars cracked like teacups, forcing them to row with fragments. Was it carelessness or sabotage? Witnesses claimed splinters littered the riverbank like breadcrumbs after the race. And let's not forget the mysterious figures along the banks. Several accounts mention men in cloaks hurling logs into the Thames at strategic moments, creating sudden obstacles for Oxford. One log, nicknamed the floating guillotine, nearly capsized them when their clumsy boat clipped it. Cambridge, of course, sailed by untouched. Coincidence? Or choreography? The press loved it. Victorian newspapers thrived on humiliation, and Oxford gave them a feast. Slower than coal barges, one paper jeered. Rowing backwards would have been faster, another mocked. But years later, The most damning revelation came not from the press, but from a set of private letters. In them, a Cambridge alumnus in the Boat Manufacturers Guild hinted at his handiwork. A little extra timber, a few more nails, and the oarsman shall curse the day. Whether drunken boasting or confession, the letters suggest this was no mere mix-up. It was engineering sabotage. And then came the gambling evidence. Police raids decades later uncovered betting slips marked not just Cambridge to win, but Cambridge to win by extraordinary margin. Extraordinary indeed. It wasn't just a race, it was a payday. The gamblers laughed all the way to the bank while Oxford rowers coughed up water. Of course, as with any great conspiracy, there are wild theories too. Some say the river itself was drugged. Ale and laudanum poured upstream so that Oxford rowers inhaled fumes and felt sluggish, while Cambridge glided fresh as daisies. Ridiculous? Maybe. But remember, this was the 1820s, when medicine was half poison anyway. Stranger things have happened. The referee himself feared foul play. His diary, discovered in a dusty attic, confesses, "I dare not call the race off, lest I be poisoned by gentlemen with more money than morals." Imagine officiating a race knowing your team might kill you if you make the wrong call. So he let it go. Cambridge triumphed. Oxford drowned in shame. And here's where the legend refuses to die. Decades later, during renovations at a Cambridge boathouse, workers discovered a hidden storage room. Inside, chained like a prisoner, was a boat far heavier than regulation. The Oxford crest scratched out crudely with a knife. Was this the very barge that ruined them? Some say yes. Some say Cambridge buried it quietly beneath new construction to hide the evidence. Others claim it was paraded around private drinking clubs, toasted as the greatest inside joke in rowing history. Imagine the laughter. We didn't just beat them. We made them row an anchor. Even modern historians admit Oxford's losing time wasn't just slow, it was glacial. Had they been racing canal barges, they might have lost to those too. The humiliation wasn't in the defeat, it was in the spectacle. The sight of Oxford's finest, red-faced and broken, rowing as if dragging London Bridge behind them, while Cambridge sipped champagne at the finish line. And here's the cruelest irony. The heavy boat may still exist, buried under Cambridge property, covered in dust and cobwebs, waiting to resurface. A relic not of sport, but of sabotage. Proof that the world's most famous rowing rivalry didn't start with honor. It started with a con. So what really happened on the Thames that foggy day? Was it Cambridge treachery, Oxford betrayal, political meddling, or gambler's gold? Perhaps all of the above. History wrote it off as a clerical error. But the river remembers. The gamblers remembered. And the rowers? They carried the shame to their graves. In the end, Oxford lost more than a race. They lost face, reduced to the punchline of rowing lore, mocked for generations. And Cambridge? They didn't just win. They engineered the slowest, most humiliating defeat possible. A victory not of strength, but of sabotage. And the kicker? Some modern conspiracy hunters claim the heavy boat is still racing, slowly, endlessly, trapped in some forgotten current of the Thames. Maybe if you listen on a foggy night, you'll hear the creak of timber, the groans of exhausted rowers, still pulling, still losing, rowing not against Cambridge, but against the weight of betrayal itself. Because maybe the Real sport was never rowing at all. Maybe it was always the art of the con.